Hello again, and let's move to section 1.2 on international agencies in the fields of sustainable development, cooperation, and research. So this is a small summary of some very interesting development agencies working with project management methodologies, which could be potentially interesting for you as employers. So knowing project management for international development and theory of change is surely halfway or a halfway to a successful application for a position in such an agency. Here you can see some agencies that I have chosen for you. These are very important ones, but there are much more than these ones. Here you can search a little bit more on the web for that. So, like I said, project management is the main tool for analyzing, for designing and planning development interventions across the major players in this scene of international development. This can be NGOs or can be governmental development agencies. Here I have the two types of these agencies. The first ones you can see, these are non-governmental development agencies. I have here the CGRs, the IUCN, the WWF or the Oxfam for you. This is only a small sample of a big universe, like I told you before. We can take a closer look at the CGRs and also the IUCN. We will take a closer look at both of these ones regarding the way they structure their programs, the way they structure their programs in the management framework that all their projects need to be following. There are as well many governmental development agencies, and here you can see again only a small sample of a much larger population. You can see here the GIZ, the Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, or USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, or SIDA, the Sweden International Development Cooperation Agency, Danida, also very known, the Danish International Development Agency, or also very known JICA, the Japan International Cooperation Agency. We will not go into any details about the governmental development agencies. I will only introduce you to some CGRs and the IUCN. Another important group of institutions involved in international development and cooperation are the donor institutions. Where most of the times you can find behind these institutions, you can find governments or governmental organizations. There are, of course, exceptions. You can also find private foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and several other more. Here we will show you a little bit in more detail the International Climate Initiative of the German Ministry of the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety. I will show you also in a nutshell the Horizon 2020 program of the European Commission and the Belmont Forum, which is an international partnership that mobilizes funding from several countries on a regular basis for issues of environmental change research, and this program tries to accelerate the delivery of research regarding environmental change and removal of critical barriers to sustainability. So that's their main field of action. Let us now start with the CGRs. CGR means Consultative Group for International Agricultural Research. It is a global research partnership for a food-secure future where several countries are donors into this very large NGO. CGR Science is dedicated to reducing poverty, enhancing food and nutrition security, and improving natural resources and ecosystem services. Its research is carried out by 15 CGR centers, 15 different CGR centers. I have them all listed here. I think I've missed one or two, but you can check it out in the CGR webpage. You may know some of those CGR centers like the Center for International Forestry Research, or the International Water Management Institute. These are very known ones. The CIFOR conducts research on the most pressing challenges of forest and landscape management around the world. It's a very known institution. It uses global and multidisciplinary approaches which aim to improve human well-being, to protect the environment, increase equity in the management of natural resources. And they use very innovative research together with partners to develop capacities in different countries where they are represented, and they actively engage in dialogue with all the stakeholders on the ground to inform policies and practices about forests and people about forest management. The International Water Management Institute is an institute that basically deals with water, but not only. A lot of cross-cutting issues are dealt as well in the IMI Institute. It responds directly to the demand for innovative, scientifically tested water management solutions, cutting-edge water management solutions, they say, for sustainable development. Their objectives are to improve food security, to contribute to the major goals of the CGRs, of course, while assuring sustainability in the management of water and ecosystems. They have the objectives to adapt and mitigate climate change as well, building resilience, but always connected to water issues, to water-related disasters and disruptions. They also aim at contributing to reduce poverty and advanced inclusion with equality in the agriculture transformation, also to contribute to energy transitions and to intensify urbanization in a sustainable way, but always in the perspective of the water sector. So these are just two of the 15 centers under the heading of the CGRs. Here you can see now the CGR setup, how they have set up their program at the agency level. Remember the different levels at which we can use project management. So this is the setup for their results framework at the agency level. The agency level sets up this results framework so that each single project operating in a single country can have a framework to which they are committed to which they should contribute to. This framework starts with system level outcomes. They call them system level outcomes, which are in fact the overarching strategic goals of the CGRs. They are aligned with international development imperatives, especially, of course, with the SDGs. So each goal of the CGRs embraces several SDGs to which they, at the end of the day, are contributing. So as I told you before, the SDGs and the Agenda 2030 is the biggest framework humanity project to which all the other institutions working in international development should fit in and contribute to. These goals of the CGRs can, of course, not be achieved by the CGRs alone. Progress towards these goals must be driven by national governments as well, in partnership with this international development organization. So the main principles of the CGRs, as of any other international development agency, is to collaborate with national institutions, national governments, and try to fit their work in the predefined development policies of those countries. There are as well many cross-cutting issues that are as well a concern of the CGRs that go through all the goals. Climate change is, of course, one of them. All of the research and development activities of the CGRs should build in resilience to climate shocks and have a focus on adaptation to and mitigation of climate change. So this is also a thing that goes cross-cutting through all the goals. Gender and youth concerns issues are also things that must be considered in projects being financed by the CGRs. Research should be gender sensitive and promote gender equity specially adapted to the needs of poor women. This is the most vulnerable groups regarding gender issues. Regarding youth, the programs of the CGR should prioritize food sector entrepreneurship along the agri-food supply chains to provide more opportunities for youth employment. Also regarding governance, policies and institutions, research of the CGRs must provide evidence for reforming agri-food policies and institutions to make them more conducive to pro-poor development, to improve nutrition and the sustainable management of natural resources. Another very important issue of the CGRs and all of the projects that work with international development is the capacity building, is the capacity development of people that work on the ground to enhance innovation through the agri-food systems, especially in new technologies and with regards to agriculture, of course, agricultural technologies, for landscape analysis, for climate-smart agriculture, for the research community, for the farmers and other groups along the value chains, the agricultural value chains, in this case of the CGRs. Now, regarding the results framework itself in more detail, let's see how this works. All the CGR centers are committed to contribute to a well-structured results chain, a results chain constructed on causality relationships. So it's a results chain that will ultimately contribute to reduce poverty. Now let us take the first goal of the CGRs, reduce poverty. For example, for achieving this goal of reduce poverty, the CGR centers need to be contributing to the following results or outcomes. The intermediate outcomes to which they should contribute all the CGR centers and all the single projects being financed by the single CGR centers, the 15 of them. So the intermediate outcome to achieve reduced poverty in this example is increased resilience of the poor to climate change and other shocks. Resilience to climate change and other shocks is seen as a precondition for the reduction of poverty. And for this resilience to be increased, the immediate outcomes are as well preconditions for it. They demand that the projects and all the agencies at the country level, at the regional level, they work on these immediate outcomes. They work towards increasing households' capacity to cope with shocks. They should work on reducing smallholders' production risks. Another intermediate outcome is to enhance smallholder market access. This is also seen as a very important precondition for achieving the reduction of poverty. So enhancing farmholder market access implies that there should be an improved access to financial services and other services. There should be a reduction in market barriers. Increased incomes and employment is another intermediate outcome that needs to be achieved for reducing poverty, and the immediate outcomes that precede them are, for instance, diversified enterprise opportunities or increased livelihood opportunities, increased value captured by producers, more efficient use of inputs. So these are all immediate outcomes to which every project working for the CGRs, working for one of the 15 single agencies, any project that is working under the umbrella of these agencies needs to be contributing to these immediate outcomes. They would need to be producing outputs that will, in the short term, medium term, allow the target people to be in the position of achieving these immediate outcomes, which on their turn will achieve the intermediate outcomes, which on their turn will contribute to reduce poverty. For monitoring the achievement of the results or outcomes and for the accountability at agency-wide level, these outcomes have indicators, they have baselines, and they have targets. Here in this example, you can see that the formulations that they have on their website, they are more a kind of joint mixed formulation of the indicators, baselines, and targets. Let's say the example they give here, saying that 100 million households adapted improved varieties, breeds, or trees, and or improved management practices has an implicit indicator, in fact, inside, which is the number of farm households that adopt these new technologies. So the number of farm households that adopt technologies is the indicator. The implicit target here are the 100 million more farmers. This is a worldwide number, a worldwide target. These are very big CGRs, are very big agencies. So they're talking about a very large number because it's a very large population in which they work, and the time frame is about 8 to 10 years. So it's an increase of 100 million more farmers in 10 years, let's say 10 years time since the beginning of the activities of the project. So this baseline is here not directly explicitly described, but you can understand that it should be zero if we are talking about new technologies to be developed by the program, let's say in 2020, and the projects start by zero, that still nobody has adopted this technology. So in the next 10 years, they estimate that success number would be that 100 million more farmers would adopt these technologies. This same structure applies for the other two goals of the CGRs, the improved food and nutrition security. Applies here this logic of intermediate outcomes and the immediate outcomes, and the indicators needed to monitor the achievement of these results. They follow the same logic. So we have here as well indicators that can express a target and also a baseline. If we go further to the other goal of the CGRs, you can see improve natural resources and ecosystem services. They also have their intermediate outcomes and also have the immediate outcomes. There are preconditions to achieve these intermediate development outcomes. So all the projects and all the agencies working under the umbrella of the CGRs, they have this overarching structure, this overarching framework to which they all should be contributing to. And at the agency level, the CGRs are on their turn contributing to the SDGs. So you see how everything is framed in, let's say, management framework, a project management framework, but at a different scales. So here you have then the targets for the last goal, improve natural resources and ecosystem services. I advise you to just click yourselves in the CGR homepage and drive through all the agencies from the International Water Research Institute to CIFOR to IRRI to all those very interesting agencies. Read their programs, read their strategies, and you will see that you will start to understand much more about the practical side of project management. For what do you need project management? For what do you need to understand how to design a project and how to come up with a theory of change, why your project should fit into all this system and all these frameworks that work towards the SDGs.